flow.
Welcome to episode 69 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. He's Lepore, I'm Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. If you're a new listener and you really enjoy the show, it would be a big time help if you give us a 5-star rating and review on both Apple and Spotify. And if you're watching us on YouTube and you really like the content, we would appreciate it so much if you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. All right, everybody. As of Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022, we are in the dog days of summer, and there is not much going on around the National Hockey League right now, and specifically with the Toronto Maple Leafs. A lot of the top free agents have already signed with new teams. There's still some names out there, though. Nazem Kadri still floating around. There's rumors that he will sign with the New York Islanders, but that remains to be seen. And other than that, not much going on. But I promise you, this is going to be a really good episode because we are going to get into talk about who the best team in the Atlantic Division is right now heading into next season. Is it the Leafs? Is it the Tampa Bay Lightning? Or is it the Florida Panthers? We have free agency talk as well. Going to talk about some of the remaining free agents on the market. But before we get into all that, it is time to welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, buddy?
Well, Anthony Bruno, I usually start this podcast by saying that I'm doing very well and I'm happy to be here. But I arrived home last night from a long vacation in Sweden and Barcelona. So as much as I'd love to say that I'm happy to be here, I'd rather be on a sunny beach in Spain. Episode 69, Bruno, we did it. The kids at the back of the bus are laughing. We made it all the way to episode 69 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast. And unfortunately for us, no player in the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs has had the balls to rock the number 69.
Nice.
Yeah, I meant to look it up if it's ever been worn in the history of the NHL altogether. Comment down below if anyone comes to mind, everyone.
I'm pretty sure there were like at least 2 or 3 guys that I played hocky with throughout.
There was always one. There was always one guy.
There's always that one guy on your team who wants to wear the number 69.
Yeah, makes it hilarious.
So funny. But yeah, we made it, man. Episode 69. Like I said, dog days of summer. Let's go through some of these remaining free agents, Lepore.
Okay.
And talk about who we think the Leafs should go after. Because as things look right now, the Leafs roster is pretty much set. I mean, there's maybe a couple moves that can be made, a free agent here or there. I think there's still probably a trade on the table, considering the log jam on defense. But just looking at the list of remaining free agents, Lepore, obviously, like I said, we have Nazem Kadri, who, it looks like at this point is going to sign with the New York Islanders.
Is it that hot? They really think like that's the one and it's going to get locked down?
Well, here's the thing, the big name insiders like Elliot Friedman and the TSN guys and, Frank Saravalli, none of them have come out and said, it's definitely Kadri to the Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
The tweet that I saw, it was from some other reporter, and he was essentially saying he had sources hearing that, Kadri to the Islanders is sort of a done deal, but they're working out cap issues and things like that. Yeah. So it's not, I don't think it's a done deal by any means, but it does seem like he is heading there, and which means he's not coming to the Leafs. He's not coming back to the Leafs, everybody.
Everyone who was excited to rock their Kadri jerseys once again. But the Islanders is a weird one. I mean, if they're going to give him the money, they're going to give him the money. But anyone who's on hockey Twitter knows the post of their list of contracts. There's 5 or 6 of them of guys who are too old, too slow, and make too much money. Adding a big, heavy, long-term contract of Nazem Kadri's isn't exactly a solution for that. But heck, if they're going to write the check, there's still that weird thing in me that thinks he's going to sign with Colorado. They themselves are maneuvering and trying to figure out something cap-wise, someone they can trade or something they can do, maybe get him a little bit lower to get him to stay in Colorado. Because I'm sure as far as what he's thinking, that's where he'd want to be. If he could stay in Colorado, I'm sure he would. I mean, the Islanders is just a weird one to me. But I'll ask you, Bruno, if you were like starting a team tomorrow, like what would you say is a fair contract for Nazem Kadri based on the way he's played and his age right now, both in the way of AAV and term?
That's tough because as much as I like Nazem Kadri, and he's still like a relatively young guy, like he's born in 1990. He's 32 years old. I'm not sure if he's turned 32 yet based on when his birthday is. I'm not sure. But, you know, this guy just came off a career season, over a point per game player, wins the Stanley Cup with Colorado, you know, is a multi-time 30-goal scorer. Like he's a really good player, but am I going to pay this guy, you know, the same type of deal that I would give to one of the top number one centers from around the league? Because that's essentially what this guy is trying to get. I'm not exactly sure how much, you know, the Islanders are going to pay him. Is it 7 times 7? Is it 7 times 8? What I would be very careful about is paying this guy like a number one center. And sure, for Nazem Kadri, go out there and get the bag, man. You deserve it. Mm-hmm. You have paid your dues. You've had a great career. This is going to be the biggest contract you've ever signed. You just won the Stanley Cup. Go out there and get as much money as you possibly can. But if I'm one of these teams, I got to be very careful here because I don't think he's a number one centerman. He's a great number two centerman. And what do you pay that guy? Now, you have the Leafs who pay their top two centermen $11 million. But in an ideal world, does that make the most sense? Probably not, especially for a guy who's 32 years old. So I think I would probably go as high as 7 million. But then you're getting if you're going over 7.5, 8 million, 8.5 on a 7-year deal for Kadri, that's a lot, man. Yeah. That's too much, in my opinion.
It's one of those ones that to me is just shaping up that it's going to be a really bad contract. And let's face it, again, I'm like you, Bruno. I love Naz. He doesn't skate well. He's never been the greatest skater. So it's not going to, guys don't get better at skating as they get older. So what's he going to look like in, say, 3 or 4 or 5 years when he's halfway through the deal? He signs 7 million though, man. I mean, he's going to get more than that. Like, I'd be shocked.
You think so?
I think he will. Like, I agree with you that, I mean, I wouldn't go higher. And if I did, it would be much higher. Well, I'll ask you this and let's have some fun and let's get some comments right now. Say same contract, same term. Would you trade Nylander for Kadri?
That's tough. No, I wouldn't, just because, first of all, Nylander's, I believe he's 6 years younger than Nazem Kadri right now. Yeah. And I just think he's a more explosive player.
Yeah.
Again, as much as I like Kadri and I thought he was a fantastic Leaf, I loved him when he was a Leaf, and I was sad to see him go, just as a lot of Leaf fans were. But no, I'm keeping Nylander over Kadri.
Nice.
At the same number.
I think it's one of those things with Kadri where we acknowledge he's a really good player. And we've talked about this before on the show with certain guys and the contracts they get. He's a really good player. He's an amazing piece because, you know, hockey players have different types of styles and they contribute different things. And that's exactly what he does. He's different. He plays different. And that's why I love him so much. But you can't pay him to be among your best players, because if he is, you're not good enough. Like if Nazem Kadri's in your top 3 or 4 players, no, like you're not a contending team. That's why, man, with the Islanders, they've had some drama over the last few decades with contracts and overpaying certain guys and lack of success. I'd be afraid of that one. I'm afraid for the Islanders. If we wake up tomorrow and Kadri gets like an 8 times 7 or something like that, or 8.5 times 7 from the New York Islanders. I mean, like you said, props to Nas for getting the dough, but I wouldn't give a high five to Lou for making that move.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the Islanders cap sheet right now. Their highest paid player at the moment is Matthew Barzal. Obviously, he's their best player. Mm-hmm. But it's actually a tie. Barzal and Anders Lee both make $7 million a year. So Are you going to give Naz the bag and make him your highest paid player if you're the New York Islanders, it's like you said, that just looks like a team that's just not good enough.
Yeah.
And I know this team went to back-to-back conference finals, and last year they took a step back and missed the playoffs. But man, you're going to pay Naz $7 to $8 million, make him your highest paid player. Barzal is in the final year of his contract. He's an RFA at the end of next season, so they're going to have to pay him. But man, yeah, just looking at their cap sheet, like that's going to be rough. And they have a lot of guys that are making like $5 to $6 million.
Yeah, that's the list I'm talking about. And they're all like, the list is always the guy, how much he's making, and how long he's like, what age he'll be when his contract is up. And it's all like mid to late 30s. Like it's not good.
Yeah.
And there's like 5 of them.
There's a lot of teams that are going with the stars and scrubs method, so to speak. You have the Leafs doing that. Even Tampa to a certain degree, where you have like, your star players that are making these big contracts, and then everyone else is down the list making like $3 million or less. And then you have the New York Islanders who just pay their entire team $5 million.
Yeah.
Literally their whole roster makes like between $4 and $6 million. And I know I'm exaggerating. It's not the entire roster, but is that the way that you win? I'm not so sure. Again, I know this team made back-to-back conference finals, but when you're paying everyone $4 to $6 million, what that tells me is that you just don't have a lot of star players on your team. You have a lot of middling talent. It's a by committee approach. And again, you can be sort of successful, but can you win a Stanley Cup like that? I don't know. Personally, I don't really think you can, because you need star players to win Stanley Cups.
Yeah, we haven't seen it yet. And my line is always the best teams have the best players.
Yeah.
Period.
Straight up.
Yep. Pittsburgh had Crosby, Washington had Ovechkin, Tampa's got who they have, Colorado's got who they have. And you look at those names and they're some of the best players in the league. So if you're just a team of very good, you're not going to get it done.
Yeah, like are the Islanders going to win a Stanley Cup when their two best players are Nazem Kadri and Matt Barzal?
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening.
I can't even see them being good. Like those are
exactly.
let alone win the whole thing. Like
they're, I mean, as things stand now in the Eastern Conference, like that team is probably going to miss the playoffs again, whether they sign Kadri or not, right?
Oh yeah, in that division. Oh yeah. So we've decided then we do not want Nas to sign an 8.5 times 7 with the blue and white.
I think we have come to the decision that signing Kadri to a massive contract like that would not be ideal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. What would have been ideal, Lepore, is if the Leafs, hindsight's 2020, if they could go back in time, keep Kadri on the roster at that $5 million cap hit or a little under $5 million, whatever it was, and not sign John Tavares and then have all this cap space to do other things. That may have worked out better in an ideal world. But, I know a lot of people have their opinions on that.
Yeah, that's a lot of hindsight. Like let's go back. Let's go. Okay, now let's have some fun now. Here we go. Let's go back. Had someone told you however many years ago it was, literally poll 1,000 Leafs fans, would you trade Kadri for Tavares, even with the contracts? They would all say they would all say yes.
Yeah, I'm saying like no one would have taken Kadri over John Tavares.
No way. Give me a break. Like not even close. Like you literally would not get one person have that opinion.
Yeah, there's no chance anyone was taking Kadri over John Tavares. You would have traded Kadri for Tavares in a heartbeat. But, based on how Tavares has aged. And again, we've talked about this before. Point of game player. I get it. Showed up at the end of that Lightning series in the first round of the playoffs this past season, scoring some big goals. The goal that was taken away on that Justin Hall pick play. I get it. But, when your number 2 center is making $11 million a year and is having a lot of problems creating his own offense, unless he's playing with good players, it's a problem. And then when you see Nazem Kadri winning a Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche as their number 2 center, making $4.5 million a year, it makes you think, man, what could have been for the Toronto Maple Leafs if they had just kind of stayed the course with that. But then there's the other side of it, Lepore, where people were like, oh, they had to trade Kadri because of his, his temper and his issues in the playoffs, getting suspended all the time. But I mean, we can go on and on about this Kadri situation.
Yeah, let's have some fun with this free agent list. Who else we got left on this list?
It's time for a quick break for a word about MANSCAPED. If you haven't heard already, it's Smooth Sack Summer. This is the summer to keep your balls cool while still looking hot with MANSCAPED. The leader in below the belt grooming is making sure we have a ball this summer by giving our pants partners everything they need to stay fresh. Dive headfirst into Smooth Sack Summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using our promo code GFP20. Lepore, you need these products this summer to stay fresh, man.
Manscaped is the best. Let me tell you, everyone, I was on a trip. My luggage got lost. And what's the first thing a guy's got to do? He's got to get some hands on some underwear, because there's one thing you can't wear multiple days in a row. It's underwear. So I was able to find some underwear, and it was some high priced underwear. And I will say, without doubt, it was not as good and as comfortable as my Manscaped underwear. Not even close. So to get the absolute best products for men, go to manscaped.com, GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping. Can't go wrong.
Their boxers are absolutely incredible. They feel amazing. And I'm not just saying that because Manscaped sends us these products. Those boxers are next level. And then, of course, you got the Lawnmower 4.0. You know the deal. That's one of their best products. The body wash and shampoo. So many amazing products from Manscaped. So go to manscaped.com and use the promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping. That is manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping using the promo code GFP20. Yeah, so right now, looking at the list, again, there's not a lot of big names. There's PK Subban, who's out there.
I'd love to see PK play for Toronto, and I think he would love it too.
That would be pretty awesome because he grew up in the GTA. He grew up a Montreal Canadiens fan, so obviously he lived out his dream playing for the Habs. But that would be pretty cool to see him in a Leaf uniform. So you got PK Subban, Phil Kessel, who the Leafs have been paying the last, how many years has it been now since they traded him? They were paying him $1.2 million on the cap, I believe.
They should sign him for exactly what they were paying him all these years just to make it hilarious. So nothing changes. Just to make the people at Cap Friendly's life easier.
So you still got Phil Kessel out there. What do you think about that? A reunion in Toronto. Phil Kessel in the Leafs, Lepore.
I think it's one of those things like we'd laugh and I'll say, yeah, we'd love to have Phil back, but it's not going to happen. Like I don't think we're going to pursue Phil Kessel. And I don't think Phil Kessel is going to pursue us. I think that ship has sailed, but it'd be good. It'd be good for laughs. It'd be good for laughs. And it'd be one of those things where the Leafs winning the cup in overtime, Phil Kessel will get the goal just to be like, it's again, just to make it hilarious and historical. And yeah, again, like Naz, I love Phil, but yeah, he ain't wearing the blue and white again.
Yeah, this story is not coming full circle. Yeah. Kessel is not coming back to the Leafs. He's not going to score the game-winning overtime goal to win the Leafs the Stanley Cup. I don't think this guy wants anything to do with the Leafs at this point.
Do you think Phil, now again, how we spin other topics, do you think Phil, I won't say hates the Leafs, but you think he has resentment towards the organization, or there's any negativity?
I think there's probably a little bit.
Yeah.
There's got to be.
I guess it was it was the old brass though. So
that's true. That's true. But I wouldn't be surprised if he still, kind of views the Leafs. I don't want to say he views them in like a totally negative light, but just the way that his tenure ended, it wasn't the greatest. And he went from being one of the fan favorites, and then he kind of became the poster child with Dion Phaneuf for like the team that just couldn't get it done. And they had like these bad apples and these guys that couldn't lead a team to a championship. And it was him and Dion Phaneuf, right? Mm-hmm. They were kind of the guys that were the poster childs of that. And then, the whole thing with the salute gate when they didn't salute the fans after winning a game. So there's a lot of, kind of shit that happened at the end of his tenure. And I don't know if he hates Kyle Dubas and Brendan Shanahan, because like you said, it was like a different management team in place. But I just cannot see that guy wanting to come back to the Toronto Maple Leafs, man.
It'd be so funny. One guy, though, again, if we have room for him, who I could see would be happy to come back, is Bozey, Tyler Bozak. I think that one, again, it's about bodies and space and salary. But I think given the opportunity, Bozak would come back. I mean, heck, he chose Toronto once when he was a college free agent. He's a Saskatchewan boy, I believe. He just was a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, and he wanted to play for the blue and white, and that's the team he decided on. So it would make sense for him to want to come back. And like I said, he would probably want to come back because he was one of those players who went through both phases, like him, Kadri, Van Riemsdyk, where they were part of the old guard, like a lot of negativity, a lot of bad, and then they were kept when the new guys came in. So they saw both. So I'm sure Bozak saw like what was coming in the way of success. And heck, I'm sure if the right offer was there and the right spot in the lineup was there, he'd be happy to come back.
Yeah, that's a player I could see actually come back. And, you know, if he does come back, whoever he ends up signing with, it's going to probably be for league min. It's going to be a 1-year deal for $750,000. Maybe it's 1 year, 1 million. But, you know, at the stage that he's at in his career, I can't see that guy signing for like more than $1 million at this point. But yeah, you have him on your fourth line. Why the hell not, man? That's not bad at all. So yeah, I would definitely welcome back Tyler Bozak if he wanted to come back.
You mentioned fan favorites. Bozy was a fan favorite. Everyone kind of loved Bozak. And you can, it's funny thing, if you follow the Toronto Maple Leafs sports memorabilia market at all, like game used jerseys, gloves, sticks, that stuff, helmets, people collect everything, goal pucks. Bozak stuff still gets a lot of attention. Like when you see these auctions, like people will pay decent money for a game worn Bozak jersey, for example, just because heck, there's no reason not to like him. Like, he always did his job, always kept his nose clean, and there's never really any conflict and no real negativity. So, I mean, like I said, the fans really liked him.
I will say the only thing that people were kind of frustrated with when it came to Tyler Bozak, and this wasn't his fault at all, is that he was like the quote unquote number one center for the Leafs for a period of time because the Leafs just didn't have enough good players. So he was kind of thrust into that role, even though he was nowhere close to being a number one center. But on that Leafs team, he was.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad looking back.
Oh my God.
When we go down this list, Lepore, Victor Rask is out there.
Yeah, I'm surprised at that one. I thought he would have got picked up sooner.
He was involved in that Nino Niederreiter trade with the Minnesota Wild. And I remember at the time, a lot of people were ripping the trade, saying that Nino Niederreiter was a much better player. And turns out those people were right. Nino Niederreiter is a better player than Victor Rask, who remains unsigned at this point. Paul Stastny, Brett Connolly, some names out there. Zach Aston Reese.
Yeah, we're
Sonny Milano.
Milano's a nice one. Milano, we shouldn't laugh at Milano. That's a nice addition for a team. Let's not forget about Alex Galchenyuk, man. You want to you want to add some speed and skill and giveaways in overtime and for breakaway 2-on-0s into your lineup. Fuck, go right ahead. Yeah, I'll never forgive him for that, eh? I'm not kidding. Like that giveaway to me, like, cost the Leafs a conference final.
Yeah, that's unforgivable.
No,
what he did.
Like, I can't, but I still can't. I say often on the show, certain things are like under talked about. I think that's under talked about. The Leafs being up 3-1, making the comeback in that game on home ice, Montreal against the ropes in that COVID year with an easy Canadian division. And he gives the puck away like that brutally. Like even the Dermott one in the next game, that happens. Like that's a hockey. Yeah,
it wasn't nearly as bad as the Galchenyuk just throwing the puck into the middle of the ice like an idiot. Like that was terrible.
The Galchenyuk one, I remember how I put it was that could happen in game 47, up 4-0, and it would still be like a blooper. Like what the hell was that? Like that just made no sense. And what makes it worse, oh my God, here we go again, the stories. Someone took a cut, I remember, of that play right before he released the puck across the blue line. If I remember correctly, 2 Leafs were wide open in front of the net. So had he just like fired it on the net, we would have had a 2-on-0 down low and scoring chance, and maybe won the series. And maybe we I can't talk because it's like fantasy. Maybe we would have won the Stanley Cup. So thanks,
God,
Alex.
What could have been? Yeah, I know what you're talking about, man. I think someone did like that, like a freeze frame right before he passed the puck, and you scan over and you see 2 guys open in front of the net. There's probably like a guy in the corner who was open. But Galchenyuk decides to throw the puck into the middle of the ice, creating a 2-on-0 for the Habs. Just absolute nightmare, man. Just thinking about that. I don't want that guy anywhere near the Toronto Maple Leafs. But let's talk about Sonny Milano for a second, because I've talked to other Leaf fans. This is a name that I've heard brought up. He's a former first-round pick, and he was not given a qualifying offer by the Anaheim Ducks. He, like I said, former first-round pick, high-skill guy. He's a good player. When he was playing with Trevor Zegras and some of the other young guys on the Ducks last season, like, he put up some really good numbers when he was put into a top 6 role. And he's a guy who can play with John Tavares and William Nylander, or even Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. Now, maybe there's some other issues in his game. He's not a complete player by any means, but a young guy who right now is 26 years old, so relatively young, who, has proven that he can play with top players and put up numbers, and who is not given a qualifying offer. Like, that's a guy I would take a chance on. Yeah, if I'm the Leafs.
No, I totally would take that deal. Even him, like, what range do you think he fetches in? Do you think it's possible for the Leafs?
That's the thing, right? Because, like, there's been, like, think about, like, for example, like Dylan Strome. Now, I think Dylan Strome's a better player than Sonny Milano, but Strome signed a 1-year deal with Washington for $3.5 million when he wasn't given a qualifying offer from the Blue Jackets. Like, I don't think Milano's going to get that much money, but there's probably a team out there that'll give him, a 1 or 2 year deal for, $2 to $3 million, you would think.
Yeah, that Strome one surprised me. I was surprised he got that much. But like, I've seen worse, and I should say we're never surprised at the deals that get thrown out. But that one, I thought he was going to sign for like a $1 or $2 million deal 1 year or something. But I guess he's really liked. So
yeah. So with Milano, still 26 years old, he can definitely fit in and be an offensive spark plug for the Leafs. But other than that, man, there's not a lot of good names out here that are still left. Like, there's also Evan Rodriguez, who's a UFA. He had a pretty solid year for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, he's a guy that could maybe play in the bottom 6 for the Leafs. But yeah, man, just going through this list that I'm looking at right now, there's not a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, let's move on, Bruno. Yeah, we don't say that too often on the podcast, but let's move on.
It's definitely time to move on at this point. We got to talk about a comment or a tweet, whatever, because he said it on his podcast. He said it on Twitter. Paul Bissonnette.
Glorious tweet. Glorious comment, Bruno.
Biz Nasty 2.0 from the Spittin' Chicklets podcast on July 20th tweeted out that the Leafs are winning back-to-back cups. And then he went on the Spittin' Chicklets podcast and he talked about it and just gave his thoughts on why on earth he thinks a team that hasn't won a playoff series since 2004 is going to win back-to-back cups. But that's what Biz Nasty thinks. And when you think about it, Lepore, I mean, it's not crazy to say that. I mean, it is kind of crazy, but you look at where the Leafs are right now on the odds board to win the Stanley Cup, to win the Eastern Conference, to win the Atlantic Division. I mean, they're right at the top. They are still considered, even though a lot of fans think that they've had a bad offseason so far and Kyle Dubas needs to go and the Leafs have no idea what they're doing. All the odds makers don't think that way. They still think the Leafs are one of the best teams in the NHL. So, Lepore, what are your thoughts on those Paul Bissonnette comments, first of all?
I think this move, and that's exactly what it was by Paul, was absolutely brilliant, because he threw it out there and he, just like everybody else at Barstool, knows that it was going to get a crazy reaction. I mean, here we are on our podcast talking about it, right? So he knew he was going to get the crazy reaction, and he knew he was going to get the comments and the discussion, because it's not that crazy. Like, obviously it's crazy for any team to make any prediction, oh, they're going to win back-to-back cups, but how it is the Leafs. Like it or not, everyone, the Leafs are a really good team. They're a 115-point team. If someone said, oh, the Leafs are going to win the cup, they're a 115-point team, that's not a hot take. So for him to make the move and say, this team is not only going to win one fucking Stanley Cup, they're going to win 2 Stanley Cups back to back. Bravo, Paul. Bravo for getting the reaction. And I love you for it. I love you for it because it gets people pumped up. And I always say, if people are not talking about you, that's when you should be afraid. If people are shitting on you and they're making fun of you and they're criticizing you, you're still relevant. They're still talking about you. And stuff like this just shows what the Toronto Maple Leafs are, because he could have said that about any team. Edmonton, they've Connor McDavid. It's not like that a blasphemous take to say that, oh, this team can add some pieces, win a cup, and is going to go win another one. They got new goaltending, better goaltending. They freed up some cap space with Keith retiring. It wouldn't be that blasphemous of a take. But Paul Bissonnette picked the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs are clearly now one of his brands, as we're seeing on the Spin Chicklets podcast and their tweets. Good on him, man. He knows what he's doing. And based on the following that Spin Chicklets has, they know what they're doing better than Bruno and I. So, oh well.
Oh, you nailed it, man. Biz Nasty knows exactly what he's doing. You know what it reminds me of? You know, in The Dark Knight when the Joker is just like blowing shit up and then he's walking away. Like that's Paul Bissonnette.
I
like,
see what you're saying.
He's sending out his tweet. Leafs are winning back-to-back cups. Clicks enter on the tweet. Walks away. There's an explosion in the background. He doesn't care. He's creating all this engagement. He's firing people up in the middle of July and the dog days of summer. He's creating content. It's just a brilliant move from Paul Bissonnette. And again, I'm sure a part of him genuinely believes that the Leafs are going to win back-to-back cups, but it was more of a, I'm going to light a match here.
Oh, fuck.
And watch and see what happens on social media. And, you know, he created a lot of engagement. So good for him. But Lepore, like when you look at the Atlantic Division right now, the Florida Panthers, in my opinion, at least, have taken a step back after the Matthew Tkachuk trade because they lose Jonathan Huberdeau.
Yeah.
They lose Mackenzie Weegar, who's one of their best D-men. And again, like, sure, they got Matthew Tkachuk, who's a really good player, but they still have Sergei Bobrovsky under contract for another 4 years at $10 million a year. And that's exactly why they traded away Mackenzie Weegar as well, because they can't sign all these guys. When it came to Huberdeau and Tkachuk, they picked one or the other, and they decided, okay, we're going to pay Matthew Tkachuk, who's 4 years younger than Jonathan Huberdeau. We're going to give him this contract. That's fine. But they also traded away Mackenzie Weegar, maybe because they're kind of crazy and they didn't really have to include him in the trade package, but also because they don't have enough money to sign this guy. So they've taken a step back. Then you have the Tampa Bay Lightning. They lost Andre Palat. They had to trade Ryan McDonough. They have their own cap issues. So when you look at the betting odds right now, Lepore, the Leafs are the favorite to win the Atlantic Division next season. Yeah. They're plus 200. The Florida Panthers are plus 220 and the Lightning are plus 225. So it's all very close. But right now, the odds makers think that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win the Atlantic Division. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I think I'd put them there. Like, it's close, and I just make all the points you made. And what I'd add to it is that Tampa Bay doesn't really care about the regular season. And based on even the playoff runs they've had in the last 3 seasons, it wouldn't shock me if, quote unquote, guys take the first part of the year off and Tampa doesn't get to that great of a start, and again, no one will question them and everyone will know they're going to turn it around. But as far as the regular season goes, I got to say, like, I'd bet on Toronto just because of the style they play too. Like, Toronto's going to score goals. I mean, they've shored up the D, I think. I'm going to say as best as they can, but like the D looks pretty solid. If they can get average goaltending, again, it's not a hot take. This is a 115-point team last year. And I was pointing out all year, man, last year, the difference between everyone was like, oh my God, the Florida Panthers, look at their record, look at their numbers, this and that. The difference between Toronto and Florida was the first 2 weeks of the season when the Leafs went like, I think 3-5-1 or 2-4-1 or something. And Florida went 7-0 in their first 7 games. And the Leafs were a little over 500 in overtime and shootout. And I may be exaggerating the number, but weren't the Florida Panthers like 14-2 or like 16-2?
Yeah,
or maybe it was like
an outrageous overtime shootout record.
Maybe it was in the shootout. They were like, they were like 7-1 or 8-1 or something like that. That was the difference between them being the best team in the division and the Leafs being in the second spot. But to the point then, I mean, Florida's regressed objectively. And I would say, you know, I hate to break this to you, Florida Panthers fans, but there aren't any Florida Panthers fans. So at the end of the day, I think it is what it is. I think most people put them on the lie detector test would pick the Leafs to win the division in the regular season, everyone, and then they're in the regular season before everyone flips out at me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? At the end of the day, you can make fun of the Leafs all you want. They can't win a playoff series. They're not clutch. They suck, this and that. They're a great regular season team.
Fucking
They've
right,
made the
we
playoffs
are.
all 6 seasons under Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner since they've been here. I think they have like the 5th best record in the league since those guys joined the team. And I'm actually going to check that out right now.
How do
so
you
we
do
got to
that?
go back to 2016, 2017, and I'll just look at pure points percentage. The Leafs, yep, right now, looking at these numbers, they have the 5th best points percentage in the NHL since Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner entered the National Hockey League.
You know what, Bruno? I think they may even be, maybe not number one. I think maybe at a certain point they were number one. It was since Keefe. I think I've seen the post, like since Keefe came in, they're like right at the top. If not one, they're 2 or 3 or something.
Oh yeah, under Keefe they have an even better record. Like they're an awesome regular season team. There's no disputing that. So when the odds makers have them as the favorites to win the Atlantic Division, it's kind of hard to disagree. And like I said, you go through what's happened with the other top teams, and then you look at Boston. They're still in limbo because even though it seems like they're going to sign Bergeron and David Krejci to 1-year deals, and they're going to run it back with the old crew, those guys haven't signed yet. And I don't think Boston is as good as the Florida teams. And then you have the Ottawa Senators who, yes, they made some great moves this offseason and they look very formidable in their top 6. That team's not ready to win the Atlantic Division. So right now, it's the Leafs, man. Even though, you know, they haven't made any huge splashes this offseason, haven't made any big trades, haven't signed any big free agents. They're running back pretty much the same team as last year, minus Jack Campbell, and inserting Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. And right now, the odds makers think that they are going to win the Atlantic Division.
We'll finish it with this question, Bruno. I'm going to ask you. Before the drop of the puck to start the regular season, are we going to see another significant trade by the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I think we might see a trade. And here's where I think it's going to come, Lepore. I don't think it's going to be a member of the core 4.
No.
It's going to be somewhere on the blue line. And it's the most obvious spot that a trade could be made, because when you look at the Leafs defense core right now, their top 6 are all right there in front of you. Go to Cat Friendly. You got Morgan Riley, Jake Muzzin, TJ Brody, Justin Hall, Timothy Liljegren, and Mark Giordano. So you'll notice the name that I didn't mention is Rasmus Sandin. And we all love Rasmus Sandin. He's a really good player, and he deserves an opportunity to finally be a full-time NHL player and not bounce in and out of the lineup. Like, he should be a full-time member of this defense core. But that would mean that Justin Hall has to go or Jake Muzzin has to go. So I think maybe look for a move on the defense core with one of those guys getting shipped out, and the Leafs, you know, finally giving Rasmus Sandin his RFA contract and giving him an opportunity along with Timothy Liljegren to finally be full-time members of this D core.
That's it. As you were talking, I'm like, and again, I was thinking the same thing. There could be a move with Hall, a move with Muzzin. I was almost kind of realizing as you were saying it, how impactful a move like that could be, because between Hall and Muzzin, that's what, like $8 million that you're freeing up.
A little under $8 million.
That's big money. And say like Sandin would sign for about what Hall makes, like call that even. So then Sandin comes, because Hall's like 2.5, right? Something like 2.25 or 2.5.
Hall's 2 and Muzzin is 5.625.
Okay, I thought Muzzin was 5.5. Yeah. So okay, so he's 2. Yeah. So a little more. Either way, like even you get Sandin in the 2.5 area, and you get rid of Muzzin, you're almost pushing $6 million of cap space, or $5.5 million of cap space. It's nice. So I'm with you. I think they're at least trying to make that move. I think all these fans would agree that if they can make a move happen that would get that money out of there, get Sandin signed, they'll do it.
Yeah, I think that's the move to be made. Like, can you see any of these forwards getting dealt? I mean, it's possible, but I don't really see it.
Everyone's either like in the category of, like you said, like absolute core not moving, or in a position where you can't really see a trade happening. Say like a Bunting. Like, why would you trade Bunting? Like, you have an amazing value with 1 year left. You're most likely going to lose them. Or you go further down and it's like kind of like the who cares category. So it's like, why would you make this trade? Just, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I hope there's a move. I hope there's a move. Like, I want the Leafs to make a fuck you move right before the start of the season to say we're going after the top of that division. And to be fair, any other season for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'd say I do not want to have this like crazy, amazing regular season. I do not want to win the President's Trophy. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this year I kind of do. I really do want them to be that impact team and be in the best position possible when the playoffs come. So you get that number 2 wild card. Like kind of like what happened last year with Tampa. Like I said, 115 point season, by far the best season in the history of the organization. And your gift is the back-to-back Stanley Cup jams. Like, yeah. Awesome.
I think that's the chip on their shoulder this year. I mean, obviously they have like 17 chips on their shoulder because they can't get out of the first round. But I think it's that, to prove to people that obviously that they can win a playoff series and make a deep playoff run, but also just to not be in that position that they were in last season. Like you said, Lepore, like I think they are going to be very motivated to win the division so they don't have to play Florida or Tampa in the first round of the playoffs, or maybe Boston, depending on how well they play this season. They want to get one of those wild card teams and just have an easier path throughout the playoffs. I think that's their motivation this year. And obviously, I mean, like I said, there's a lot more motivation outside of that, but I think they're going to want to win the division and lock up that number 1 seed.
100%, man. 100%.
All right, Lepore, anything else you want to get off your chest before we end this podcast?
No. And Bruno, I was just playing earlier. As much as I enjoyed being in rural Sweden and on the beaches of Barcelona, I'm happy to be back, man. I'm happy to see your mug on the podcast. There's no place I'd rather be in the world than in this chair recording a pod with Anthony Bruno.
Oh, Lepore, you're going to make me blush, man. Wouldn't you rather be in like Barcelona with me recording a podcast there?
There
like
you
we
go.
Were both in Barcelona.
The market
for that matter.
The market is flooded with hockey and Leafs podcasts. Why don't we start a hockey podcast in Barcelona and be the only one? We'll record live from the beach.
Oh, we'll take over the market, man. We will just take Europe by storm. Yeah. The GFP podcast.
You know what? Before we go. 1 in a million here. I did the tour. Those who know me well know I'm a big footy fan. So I took my nephew and we did the tour of the Barcelona stadium, the Camp Nou. And Barcelona, like Barcelona Football Club, obviously, but that brand has like different sports teams. Like they have a basketball team. Ricky Rubio played for them as an example. And I was with my nephew and there's different posters around the stadium and the grounds. And there was a poster of a hockey player. And he asked one of the guides, like, is that a hockey player? He's like, yeah, we have a hockey team. It's like, what? Like, exactly.
Are you serious?
That was my reaction. Like, they have a hockey team, but okay. So if there's any washed up plugs out there who maybe played like tier 2, want to be superstars in Spain, go play for the Barcelona hockey team.
Yeah, Lepore, I'm ready to go play for Barcelona at this point.
Right? Why not?
Let's give them a call. See if they'll sign us to a free agent contract.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it, man. All right. That is going to do it for episode 69 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Once again, if you're a new listener and you just enjoyed this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on both Apple and Spotify. We would love you for that. And if you've been watching us on YouTube and you enjoy the content, it's just so simple. And this would help us more than you could ever imagine. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel while you're at it. And hey, if you want, ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is releasing some new content. So for Michael Lepore, I'm Anthony Bruno. We will see you guys very soon. Hopefully some more news breaks in the NHL, maybe some trades, maybe Kadri's going to officially sign, but we will be here to cover it all. But until then, we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.